The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. Central Texas Regional Mobility Authority is using Google AI to create smarter tolling systems and improve traffic flow for Texans. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Kiara Profena. Together we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And today we're checking out the best new attraction in the Columbia River Gorge.
That's right. There's obviously a lot of really incredible things to see in the gorge, but it's not every day that there's something new to see, you know? Like most of the attractions are waterfalls and wildflowers. Like we talked about all those wildflower hikes last week, which, by the way, quick side note, Kiara, we had mentioned this, the whole part of the last week's wildflower episode was like, you were like, I've never had a wildflower hike experience. I'm looking for a spot to go. We gave you a bunch of recommendations. I understand that you did one.
I did. I actually went and I took my friend and we went to Dalles Mountain Ranch. It was so beautiful. It was like the perfect day to go to. It was like not long after we filmed, so it was probably around mid-April-ish, and everything was already blooming. I like checked online to make sure, and I mean, first of all, like the drive, beautiful. I love driving in the gorge, but getting to the little loop and just like walking out and seeing like immediately like instant gratification. There was no 7-mile uphill hike. It was just like there. So that was really, really gorgeous. I wasn't trying to, absolutely, die the first time I ever did it. So I chose one of the easier ones, and I did like the half loop, which was 4 miles, and it was so beautiful. I took so many cute pictures, but I'm so glad that I did that because I have never just like gone out to the gorge to hike really. So I think it was kind of like the best case scenario, best season to do that in, best like company that I had too.
What do you think about wildflowers? You had never done it before.
I am a big fan. I mean, what can I say? They're gorgeous. They're so nice to look at. So I'm already trying to plan another trip out with my partner, since I went with my friend last time, but I bought one of those Washington Discovery Passes. So now I have it until next April. And I'm like, well, I got to go out and use it. So
that's right.
I'm thinking of going to Dog Mountain at some point. I have to really, rev us both up for that 7-mile hike. So we got to find a day to do it. But sometime this month for sure, we're going to get up there.
Amazing. Wow. Okay. Back to our intro. That's I'm so happy to hear that. I'm just like, it's nice to hear when we like give suggestions, and then like they happen.
I know.
There's something magical about
very
that.
Very rewarding.
So back to our intro here. All of these like wildflowers, waterfalls, all these attractions, the reasons we often go to the gorge, these are things that have been around for, thousands of years. So, but what we're talking about today is like a new human created attraction. This is something that has not existed before because people just made it. And what we're talking about today is one of my new favorite places in the gorge. It's the Mitchell Point Tunnel.
Yes, I heard a little bit about this when it was being constructed. I don't know too much about the project, but as far as I understand it, it's like a massive bike trail that they're building across the country, and Mitchell Point Tunnel is kind of a piece of that here in Oregon.
There's yes, part of that is correct.
Okay, cool. Yeah, please tell me what I got wrong there.
The Mitchell Point Tunnel, it's a 655-foot long tunnel that is blasted out of the rock at Mitchell Point. That's essentially what it is. It's a big, long tunnel. It is a piece of a much longer trail, the historic Columbia River Highway State Trail, which we'll talk more about in a second. But essentially, it's this really cool rock tunnel that it's not for cars. We should say that right off the bat. This is not a tunnel you can drive through. This is for walking and biking specifically. So pedestrians and cyclists only in this tunnel, but it is such a cool place to go.
The visuals already look insane. I just looked at some of the photos and it just looks really like almost futuristic in like a Star Wars way. Like it's like this, you're looking over the water in like this beautiful landscape and you're in this like kind of like interesting looking tunnel, and it's very like misshapen in like a very charming way.
Yeah, it's like not like a car tunnel where it's like, you know, you have this uniform shape.
Yes.
There is that kind of shape on either end of the tunnel. But in between, yeah, it's for lack of a better word, lumpy, you know, like the rock is, it's not so smooth. There's something naturalistic about it.
It's like a cool lumpy.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of these like windows in the tunnel, in the side of the tunnel, that look out over the water, out of the Columbia River and the mountains on the other side. So it lets in all of this light into the tunnel, but like in between these windows of light, there's like this darkness. So walking through the tunnel, you get this sort of experience of being in like pitch black darkness. And then all of a sudden you're at this window of light overlooking this incredible view. And then you go and there's just that same experience over and over and over and over again through the whole tunnel. And you get out on the other side and the path continues off into the gorge. So there's like this paved pathway that runs through the tunnel and then exits on either side.
Gotcha. And how long is this tunnel?
655 feet.
Okay. You did say that.
Yes.
Okay. Numbers just go straight over my head.
That's
generally.
understandable. I get it.
But so a nice little stroll through. And were you biking or walking?
I was walking.
Okay.
I'm not a big cyclist to begin with, but also when I'm like taking pictures, it's easier for me just to walk and go through it. I think everybody I saw on the day I was there, and it was not that crowded when I was there because it had just opened partially. And it was like, 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, which is when I love going places.
Right. Best time.
So there weren't that many people there, and everyone was walking through. I saw people of like really all ages. I saw some little kids. I saw some folks using walkers. Just people out there enjoying this cool tunnel.
Yeah. And can you tell me a little bit about like the history and planning about this tunnel?
Yeah. Okay. So this is actually really interesting. So this is not the first Mitchell Point tunnel that has existed. Back when they made the original Columbia River Highway, which is now the historic Columbia River Highway, this is like one of the first scenic highways in the country. They built it in like 1915, I think is when the tunnel opened. And this was like the crown jewel of this scenic highway. Like the idea of like making a highway that went through a scenic area without destroying the natural beauty did to some extent, but like the idea of like driving for scenery reasons was pretty new at that point. Cars were pretty new at that point. So this was like a really sort of unique experience. The Mitchell Point Tunnel that they had then looked pretty much the same as they did now. It was sort of built out on the side of a rock. They had the windows, but it was made for cars.
Gotcha.
And it lasted, a few decades. But then once they started bringing the interstate in, they destroyed the tunnel. They blasted it out. So that tunnel is no longer there.
And so is that where the highway is now?
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to understand exactly where things are placed, but my idea is the tunnel was originally closed due to like safety issues because like it's kind of audacious to build like a driving tunnel that is not, we have standards for that kind of stuff now. And it was, I don't know, probably not totally up to what our code is today. So after about 40 years, they shut down the tunnel due to safety issues. And then in 1966, they destroyed it to allow the interstate to come through it and be widened.
Gotcha.
So, they built like a real freeway through the gorge instead. So now it's sort of, when we drive through the gorge on 84, it's not really just about the scenery. It's about like, moving through trucks and getting through efficiently and quickly. So, that's something of that magic of going through more slowly, seeing the scenery, I think was lost with that.
Yeah.
So this is like a recreation of that on the historic Columbia River Highway State Trail.
Gotcha. And this trail is much longer than this tunnel, I assume.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about the trail if you can't tell, but how long is that trail?
It's in progress.
Okay.
So the concept of the historic Columbia River Highway State Trail, which is such a mouthful, we'll just call it the trail.
Okay.
For the purposes of this episode. The concept is that it's a 73-mile bikeway through the gorge that goes like roughly from Portland to the Dalles. Some of that is just on the historic highway that we have now, which is, it kind of runs parallel to I-84. It's slower, it's windier. And on parts of this trail, you're sharing the road with cars. But there's these segments of it that are paved pathway, that are off-road, that are paved pathway that are just for cyclists and pedestrians, right? Like we're talking about with this tunnel. So on these segments of trail, you can just be totally free and enjoy the scenery and not worry about being in traffic at all. And they are still in the process of stringing together these segments. Like they'll build it a few miles at a time, then connect them. The tunnel is right now not connected to any of those other pieces of trail.
Gotcha.
But it's very close. It's very, very close. Just there's a nearby 8-mile segment that runs west all the way to the Wyeth Trailhead. It's a really beautiful spot. It goes through, it's like a bunch of waterfall viewpoints and some incredible views of the gorge. And eventually that will connect with a tunnel. And then on the other side, they'll connect the tunnel, the trail from the tunnel to Hood River. And eventually you'll be able to sort of go from Hood River out to the tunnel. And that'll be a really great bike ride there. Going right from town, see the tunnel, keep going for a while and go back. That's an incredible way to do it.
That sounds like really idyllic. And have you biked this trail before?
No. Again, I'm not a big biker. I've wanted to. Okay. I've thought about it. Like I don't own a bike is the thing. So it's like a matter of like finding a place to rent a bike or finding a friend who's got a bike rack and a bike I can ride, which is, I'm sure I do. I haven't made it happen yet, but I've wanted to because it seems really cool. I think also I've been kind of waiting for this all to be finished. Like I've been covering this like segment by segment thing over the last, 8 years at this point. And there's always like a little bit more. But I do think biking it is ultimately the best way to do it. I've walked parts of this trail and it's been like, parts of it are gorgeous and beautiful and parts are like, I'm walking beside the freeway. It's loud and there's cars zooming by me. It's not very fun. So like, not all of it is a great place for a pedestrian, but I can imagine zipping by on a bike feels much better.
And what is like the future of this construction? Is this like a, decades long project that we're going to see happening or kind of like a near future thing?
I think it's at this point closer to near future than it ever has been before. The Mitchell Point Tunnel was always sort of the big project. That was like the most expensive, this is like a crazy feat of engineering to put this thing together. That's like looking at it, it's beautiful. There's great views, but just looking at it from like an engineering standpoint, it's kind of crazy. And I'm not an engineer. I don't know exactly why that's crazy, but it seems crazy to me that they did this in a way that is like safe and presumably sustainable. So this sort of big project is done. So now they're just looking at like building more like paved pathway. I don't believe there's many huge projects remaining, if at all. So there's like, I think, there's another segment here that they need to build, obviously, on the other side of the tunnel. But I think it's probably, if I had to guess, and I don't know, but if I had to guess, the next few years, you might see some of these pieces really start to come together.
Gotcha. That'll be really exciting. It sounds like a really, really cool way to see the gorge. I mean, just driving through, I like always am just awed by how beautiful it is. So I can't really fathom having like that ability to just like slow down and take it, a lot more visually seeing things and, being aware of what's out there in the gorge and what it really looks like. And
I think too, it's more accessible.
Yeah.
The other ways to sort of slowly see parts of the gorge are hiking, which is great. I love those trails, but there's a lot of folks for whom those trails are not accessible,
Right.
Who don't want to climb a mountain to get a good look at the gorge. So this way, I mean, the Mitchell Point Tunnel, these are views you can't get any other way. But there's like nice sloping gradients on paved pathway that you can take, mobility devices. You can bring your stroller. Anyone can walk this trail. It's really designed for anyone to be there, and that's really cool. So this is now like an accessible way to get that kind of experience you're talking about. Right.
And so you can just like drive to this tunnel and go out and check it out, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's the thing. So to get to the Mitchell Point Tunnel, you know, if you're driving on 84 going east, there's the Mitchell Point exit, which is right there. And it's been closed for like the last couple of years as they've been doing this work. But that is now open. And when you take the exit, there is a small parking lot that fits, you know, gosh, probably only like maybe a dozen, 18 cars. It's not a huge parking lot. So I do imagine it fills up fast. 18 spots is what the number is. I just looked it up. So this is something that it will probably fill up quickly because it's not only the trailhead for the tunnel, it's also the trailhead for the Mitchell Point hike, which leads up to the top of Mitchell Point. So hikers, people going to the tunnel, all have to compete for those 18 spots. So if it's like Saturday at 11 a.m., you know, good luck to you. If you really want to do this, try an off day, an off hour. You might not be able to get this on your first try. The way it's set up too, they make it kind of impossible for you to park anywhere other than in a parking spot. If you're trying to park like on the side of the road, you're just going to block the road. And obviously don't do that. Like that's bad. So there's nowhere really else to park to get right up to this tunnel. You can hike in from nearby, but it's going to be a little bit more of a walk to get to the tunnel.
Gotcha. So kind of going out there, maybe if you get to the tunnel and you realize that the parking lot is full, what else could you do around that area? What could you explore and then come back and visit?
I mean, there's so much, right? I mean, if you just continue on, from that trailhead, like, I mean, that you can't really go back around and just go back west on A84 from there. It kind of forces you to continue east. So if you keep going on from there, then you're like your next exit or one of your next exits is Hood River. So you might as well just go hang out in Hood River. Yeah. Right?
Why not?
That's what I think. Go to the waterfront, go vintage shopping, go eat pizza, go have a beer. There's so many things to do there. So, I mean, I think whether or not you get at a spot, there's a way to make Mitchell Point Tunnel visit a part of a larger day in the gorge, right? So just imagine for a second, you do get a parking spot there. That's great. You see the tunnel. Wow, so cool. I love it. You can also then hike to the top of Mitchell Point. That's a really cool thing to do. It's not too bad. It's just about 2.5 miles round trip. It's a little bit steep. Oregon Hikers calls it a moderate hike. I think that's probably fair. So if you're like, someone who hikes, you can go up there and get some really cool views way up high in the gorge. So you can do the tunnel, you can do the hike, and then you can go to Hood River, do all the stuff we just talked about. Obviously, a great place to hang out. And then you could keep going east if you want and go to some other tunnels, the Mosier Twin Tunnels, which are, not as spectacular. Okay. They're certainly very cool. It's a pair of tunnels. It's on the same trail. So this is like the historic Columbia River Highway State Trail goes from Hood River east, and it kind of runs for several miles, and then it eventually, sort of towards the end of those several miles, it runs into Mosier Twin Tunnels, and it goes through those tunnels. Very cool. If you want to just see the tunnels, you can just go to the eastern trailhead in Mosier and then hike I think it's 0.7 miles to get to the tunnels, hiking west from there. And so it's like another 1.5 miles or so.
Is this another just pedestrian tunnel system?
Yeah, exactly. It's on just like the bike only, pedestrian only trail. This is just another really cool tunnel. I mean, some people are like really into tunnels, and this is like a really cool thing to do. There's not a lot of these sort of pedestrian tunnels you get to walk through, and so it's a cool opportunity to see something different.
And what's different about this tunnel compared to the Mitchell Point Tunnel?
I mean, it's I don't know. It's charming, I suppose. To me, it's sort of, the vibe is more like covered bridge. I mean, it's obviously not a covered bridge, but you know what I mean? There's something like sort of rustic and charming about it. Whereas Mitchell Point Tunnel is sort of like awesome and like, as you said, something weirdly futuristic about it.
Yes.
I didn't realize that. I didn't think about that till you said it, but I'm like, yeah, there is something, I don't know. What is it about that? Where Mosier Twin Tunnels just feels more like back in time.
Yes. Yeah, just looking at pictures, it looks more like your classic tunnel experience.
Your classic tunnel experience.
So if you're going for the classic tunnel experience and the non-classic tunnel experience, now you know where to go.
That's exactly right. And I do think, once we get these trail segments put together, it is going to be a really cool experience. I'm not someone like who I probably would not bike on the highway with cars. That's not quite my thing. But it used to be that if you wanted to bike through the gorge, you had to bike along the shoulder of I-84, which is insane. And people did it, but it was absolutely insane. And so the idea behind this whole project is like, let's get people off the highway.
Right.
But like, let's also give people a world-class experience. Something that people can come from all over the world to say, oh, we biked through the gorge. Like in a way that is safe and anyone can do. Like, I am down to bike on these pathways. That sounds safe and easy to me. I'm not going to get hit by a car. I love that about it. So once we get this tunnel, especially this tunnel connected on either side, biking from like Hood River to the Wyeth campground, I can't do the math off the top of my head, but that's going to be like some like 8 to 15, 20, I don't know. It's not a crazy long ride, but it's a really cool ride you can do. And there's a campground at the Wyeth, so you can like bike from Hood River out to a campground, stay the night, bike back the next day. What a cool overnighter,
Yeah, I mean, just looking at that, I'm not a big biker either, but I am a runner. Running that trail sounds really fun. Maybe not like the 20-mile one. I'm not there in my running journey yet, but like a good few, like 5-6 miles. It looks like there are already big chunks of that you can run. I feel like this would be such a fun place to like, maybe not like a big public race, but just like run a marathon along the waterfront on your own kind of thing. Do some long runs out there. That sounds like a really, really cool and fun way to get out of your neighborhood and get out of like downtown where I tend to run.
Totally. I should say that like, if you at this point, if you're a runner or a long distance hiker, you can hike to the Mitchell Point Tunnel without parking at that parking lot.
Okay.
So the segment, the 8-mile segment I was talking about, while it's not connected by paved trail, they do have like an unimproved like hiking trail.
Okay.
That leads from the end of that segment to the Mitchell Point Tunnel. So what you can do is you can walk from Viento State Park to the end of the trail, walk the final, it's like a 0.7 miles along this unimproved trail, and that gets you to the tunnel. Round trip from Viento to the tunnel and back that way is like 5.5 miles. It's not bad. It's not bad.
That's my longer run for the week right now.
Yeah.
So that actually would be a really fun way to switch up my running routine.
Totally. That does involve some running like right next to the freeway.
I can manage.
Yeah. It's not, I don't know. I'm almost every time I'm doing this, I'm like, should I bring like earplugs or something, or have headphones on or something like that.
Right.
But there are ways to get there. I think however you get to the Mitchell Point Tunnel right now, it definitely is worth getting out there and seeing. I don't like to throw too much hyperbole on a lot of places, but this is really, really cool. And I was really blown away when I went there. So, I mean, it's not every day you get to see something like this. I don't like to use the word unique a lot, but this does feel pretty unique. I've never seen anything like it before. And I think it's just a fabulous attraction.
Well, coming from Oregon's premier outdoors and travel reporter, calling it unique, that's enough of a stamp of approval for me. I'm going to definitely put this on my list to check out. So I'm excited to go see it. I mean, the pictures look so beautiful, so I think it'll be even more magical in person.
I definitely think so. Well, this will be your continued adventures in the gorge.
Yeah, we'll have to check back and see what I think about it next time we touch on the gorge.
Perfect. Well, folks, that will do it for us for today. Until next time, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel, as well as HereIsOregon.com.
Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show, and if you want to support this podcast as well as our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find details at OregonLive.com/podsupport. Also, if you're a fan of the show and you're interested in potentially sponsoring it, you can get in touch with our marketing people at advertise@oregonian.com. This episode of the show is produced by me alongside Jamie Hale and Vicky Connor.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.